Welcome to this panel discussion on AI in schools, how AI will change the school and how to teach it. As you can see, Enrico is just arriving, and I just begin, yeah? My name is Anita Eichinger. I am director of the Vienna City Library, and that's why I'm chairing and moderating this panel, one of the editors of this textbook, Digitalization and Us, which was published in German 2 years ago and got translated into English, Italian, Enrico, and Dutch in the last 2 years. It's a basis for teaching AI in schools, and we edited this book mainly because there was just no teaching material 2 years ago, yeah? And there's still a lack of teaching materials in schools. We will discuss this, I'm sure, today. I'm going to introduce the panel. And it's a panel on which people are sitting who are dealing with AI in schools in a very practical way. We have 2 students, we have 1 teacher, and we have 2 professors of informatics whose job is to train AI also in schools, not just to teach it at the university level. Michelle Ming Ertl is a student at Stubenbastei, in which 1 year ago an elective course on AI and digital humanism started for students at the age from 16 to 18. Michelle is not only attending this course, she is also passionate about sharing technology with others. As she told me before, she is mentoring her younger sister. And she is also hosting informatic workshops in primary schools.
Yeah, with Anja together.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, together.
Enrico Nardelli,
Yes.
alphabetical order. Enrico is a full professor of informatics at the University of Rome, Vergata, and past president of Informatics Europe. He is the director of the National Laboratory Informatics and Schools of Chini.
Yes, correct.
And member of the steering committee of Informatics for All coalition. Since 2014, he coordinates Programma Il Futuro, of which he will definitely tell us later. His current research activity is informatics education and the interdisciplinary study of informatics systems and their social impact. And as I already told you, Enrico was the driving force behind translating this textbook into Italian. And the book was just published 2 months ago, I think, in Milano, together with Hannes Wertner. Of course, I forgot to mention the co-editors. I was only one of the editors. The other editors are Peter Knees and Hannes Wertner. Peter Knees and Hannes Wertner. Tanja Paar is teacher at the Stubenbastei.
Viktoria.
Viktoria Paar. Okay, sorry, Viktoria Paar. I'm really famous for switching and mixing up names. Sorry. Is teacher at the Stubenbastei. She teaches biology and chemistry. She is and was part of the team that developed the curriculum and also teaches the course right now in this semester. She is only in her 3rd year as a teacher. Before that, she was for 14 years working in the pharmaceutical industry. And she is also currently doing her master and is writing a thesis on serious games together with the Boku University in Vienna. So I forgot one person, I see. René Röpke. René Röpke is an assistant professor at TU Wien in Faculty of Informatics, where he serves as head of the so-called eduLAB. They are in cooperation with the Stubenbastei. He is talking about this later also. His research focuses on learning technologies, computer science education, and AI in education. René is also in the team that developed the curriculum at Stubenbastei as one of the pioneering projects in teaching AI and digital humanism. And now Anja Sikic. Anja Sikic is, of course, a student at Stubenbastei. She's attending the course as well. Anja loves sharing her knowledge with others, as she told me before, whether she's mentoring her brother, and she is also hosting a workshop and teaches AI in elementary schools. So we have 2 very young students who also work as teachers already. Okay, welcome to all of you. We start with a very general question, and we talked about opening the panel after 45 minutes to an hour. So we want to invite you to discuss with us, because you can see a role model today on the stage, and maybe we have practical questions according to the implementation of the subject. We are only talking about Italy and Austria. So maybe you can share your insights from other countries. We only have Italy and Austria on the panel, which is nice. And I ask with the question, AI in schools. It did already, I guess, change the school, and it will definitely change the school. And I start with you, Michelle. Maybe you share your insights, how it did change already your school day.
Yeah, so I think that everyone knows that now that we have AI, most of our students are using it a lot, whether it is to do your homework or just to use it as a tool for generating flashcards, for studying, I don't know, English. And it really has become, like from my perspective, from a student's perspective, it really has become a big part. And I use it on a daily basis, and I don't know any student that does not. So I really think that it is really important to know how to use the tool correctly. As I like to say, to use it as an enhancement and not a replacement. So we need to learn how to use a tool correctly, to not forget that we have our own set of skills that we need to use. And yeah, just to learn how to use our skills, and with the AI as a tool to enhance those skills that we have, to be even better at those. And also, there are a lot of tasks in school that only require memorization, or just tasks that can be automated, I think. So, for example, if you have to do a presentation, it is your job to do the presentation, right? To gather all the information and to also think critically about it. But for example, for making the presentation, then to only put the information and the text on the presentation, I think it is good to use the AI, because that's something that only steals time from you, and it takes a lot of time. And also in that time that you spend on making the presentation, you could actually think about some other points or integrating some other point of views in a presentation that you haven't thought about before. And yeah, also speaking of using AI as a tool for thinking critically, I think it's also nice. For example, in schools, we sometimes have debates, and you have to think, and let's say you're on the pro side, and if you are on the pro side, you do want to know what the other side is going to say. And to get another point of view, you can also use AI as a tool to get more insights. So,
okay. Thank you, Anja. You wanna cut in, because maybe you can go a little bit into detail how the course you are attending now, changed it, because you use AI as a practical tool, but did you get any insights in the last 2 semesters, on what are probably the threats of AI and the critical thinking it probably supports or don't, What are your experiences in this were your experiences in this last year?
So I primarily chose this subject because I really wanted to learn more about AI, because it's more present in everyday life, and in the future is going to be even more important. And I think, as Michelle already said, it's important to learn how to use it and not let us use us, not let us do jobs for us, but help us enhance our skills in those jobs. And to go back to your question, so we learned not just how AI is in the field of informatics present, but also, for example, how it was made and how the technology, like the AIs, use nature to help us. For example, like the biometric, I think we learned about the biometric system, and how AI uses everyday subjects to help us in different ways. And also we learned about a lot of really different things, which is already great, I think, and our teaching can also tell us more about that later. We talked also about different apps, how AI can help us develop apps, and we were in groups and we needed to develop apps. And for example, Michelle and I developed an app that can help cancer patients, or another group developed an app that can help people with heart problems. And I think that's very great because that gets more and more important by the day. So yeah, and we also got a lot of media presence. We were in the radio, and yeah, I'm happy that we got so much publicity.
Okay, yeah, it's really a role model in Vienna, I would say. Yeah, this curriculum at Stubenbastei. Viktoria, Paar, you are one of the teachers, yeah. How you teach it? Is it interdisciplinary? Is it a separate subject? How did you address this question on how to implement or teach AI?
So we had a lot of preparation work before, and we're thinking about the most interesting topics around AI, and thus we are talking about the life sciences, for most biology. We chose some topics like cancer, for example, or nervous systems, and we tried to show that there are similarities at first, and we try to encourage our students to have creative ideas, not only use AI to get the job done, but to use it in a creative way. And well, the outcome was great.
Okay, very good, yeah. Besides you sits René Röpke, who supported you a lot in developing this curricula. René, what and why did you say yes to this cooperation?
So, why should I say no is the question, right? So I think what we all witnessed just now, and I find that really remarkable, but I expected it to be, we have two students here who actually showed us what we would like to see in students, this critical, reflective, but also creative approach. And I think this is one of the reasons I was drawn to this project, and I am convinced that this is the chance. We introduce school subjects on various topics here and there, and it is important to tackle challenges that transform education and the world. And this is what AI does currently. It transforms teachers' lives, but also students and the society in general. And by kind of embracing this transformation and kind of bringing these skills that we needed to kind of manage it, to drive it, to design it into schools, that is something that I find is the most valuable part. And that cannot maybe be covered by the other subjects just now, because the technical details, the responsibility of subject matter that is behind there and that is in computer science, but also the principles of digital humanism that are here combined, those are the things that kind of make this. And I think we just saw that here with the students, the reflective and creative approaches that they described, that they are using in class, is something that is so valuable. And I think that's a futuristic style of teaching. We need that more and more in all subjects. And maybe this role model can show us how to tackle the challenge of AI with substance, but also with competencies that need to be developed further. And therefore, I couldn't say no.
Okay. But this role model is based on this cooperation, yeah? Would this role model work also in schools without the cooperation with the technical university? Question to both of you before we go to you.
I think you don't have enough capacity, but I think it's a good start.
Yeah, I would say it is for sure a challenge to spread that out, but educating multipliers, teachers to do these things is the first part. And it might not be a subject in each school just now, next year or something, or in 2 years, but it might roll out sooner or later and maybe be integrated in existing subjects, in project weeks, in approaches that schools cover. We have STEM focus areas, we have musical and language areas where schools focus on. Why shouldn't they focus on AI and digital humanism? And this could be a chance, and of course the materials that we develop at Wien Informatics eduLAB, they are for the teachers to use, and we invite the schools to us happily, but we can't cover them all, and we can't cover the schools in further parts of Austria beyond Lower Austria and Vienna, I would say, because regional factors, and not even in Italy and the Netherlands with this book that we have now and these versions as well. So I think there are certain challenges, but I think by helping the teachers getting these approaches into practice, we can do a lot, even if it's not the same school subject everywhere.
Okay. We come back to the question on how to teach the teachers, for sure. And the second point is that what you described when addressing teaching materials and coming up with curricula is that you share your insights, and they can be downloaded, and a role model is here to be copied, I guess. That's the point of a role model, or a pioneer project, Okay, we covered not Austria, one school in Vienna, the Stubenbastei. Enrico, when we come to Italy, you've been working in the field of teaching informatics in schools for more than 14 years, I guess. Yes. You have a lot of experience. Is there anything which is completely different in Italy? Is it more established in Italy? Because this is really focused on one school, and it's the enthusiasm of the teachers coming up with the curricula and the director in the Stubenbastei and the technical university. So it's a very individually based project. Is this different in Italy? Just tell us a little bit about what you are doing.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to apologize for my delay, because I'm sorry, but I was synchronized on a different time scale, so sorry. I would have liked to have an AI assistant telling me to come here in time. Now, before coming to your question, I would like to make 3 remarks about the subject AI in school, which are often forgotten but are important to make the discussion significant. The first is that we have to distinguish between the use of tools, the knowledge about the impact of tools, and the knowledge about the scientific principles. So these are 3 different things that requires different discussion. The second remark is that there are different levels of education: primary, lower secondary, 11 to 13, upper secondary, 14 to 18. Then there is higher education, tertiary education, then there is the vocational education. And all these levels have different needs and requires different approach. So one cannot speak in general about AI in school. And third, in school there are at least 3 roles: the students, administrative staff, and teachers. And again, they have different needs, and so we have to be clear about what we are speaking about. Now, I will be mainly focusing on students and teachers. And I have to say that I am a bit more cautious with respect to AI in school, with respect to my fellow panelists, and I will explain later during the discussion. But to explain the difference between the situation in Italy and in Austria, in Italy we have just recently approved a reform of the curricula, a revision, not a complete reform, a revision of the curricula for both primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary, where we have been able to introduce informatics as a subject of study, not as a fully autonomous subject with its own name because of some juridical complexity, legislative complexity, but the concept of informatics as a science is there since primary, focusing on the concept, not so much on technology, but on the concept, like it is, for example, for mathematics. I mean, you teach what means to do some operation, not that you have to be able to be a human calculator. So this is a really great improvement, only in part, because then we have to prepare the teachers, which will be another big fight. But I mean, I've been working on this theme since many years, and so I'm happy in this period of my life. We have also inserted in this reform some words about artificial intelligence, in the sense that we could not ignore. So the expert that provided this new curriculum, in all discipline, added some words to make teachers aware about the fact that AI tools are around, students will be using, I mean, no matter what they will be using. So it is important to educate students in the danger and the potential benefits of what this technology can do. And I mean, as we say, I think in general, the devil is in the details. So the details of how this is implemented is really critical. And also the fact that, as Moshe reminded this morning, the work at home doesn't have any meaning anymore, because at home students will have, in any case, an unrestricted access to these tools, no matter what their parents do. I mean, all of us have been teenagers and children. I mean, we have found our way of escaping from duty. So this will require a change, and I already have been discussing this with my colleague in the university 3 years ago, when I suggested to abolish master thesis and bachelor thesis, because I mean, if students can generate them, what is? So definitely education about this tool is important, has to be done under the guidance of the teachers. And other uses, I mean, there can be good uses, but they have to be considered carefully, debated carefully, and understood in depth. So I will stop here for the time being.
Okay. Well, as I suspect, this is happening at Stubenbastei. Yeah, very detailed. They're cautious about how to implement AI. You talked about the subject of informatics. I'm not quite sure, but I think Viktoria, you know, at which age informatics is taught in Austria. I don't even know. Yeah.
I think
is it mandatory even?
Yes, it's mandatory.
Yeah.
But I agree. I totally agree. What you said, that you don't really need to think of just teaching it, but getting into details. So, what is the question? What is the specific topic I want the students to think of, and what should be the output of it? Mm-hmm. So we do not have to be as fast as possible by teaching anything around AI, but we also have to be very specific. So we have to meet in the middle between being like fast enough, not missing the train, but being specific enough to have quality in this education. So we cannot just say, well, let's do it, and then it misses its purpose. But on different ages, various topics are addressed throughout the whole education system.
Okay. Anja and Michelle, when you hear this, is there a gap between your use of AI at home and the use of AI in school? Are the tools completely different, or do you use different tools in schools than at home?
No, sometimes. So for school, I mostly use Notebook LM, which is really nice because you can scan all your papers that you got, and it will help you generate questions to help you prep for a test, for example. And then for everyday use, you'll just use tools like Gemini or ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And also a lot of studying apps included AI in their programs. Like, as Michelle said, you scan something, then they make flashcards for you, or they just make notes. And I think that's really great. Also, I think there's some AI that can that you turn on during your lectures in university, and then it does your notes for you. I mean, that's very lazy, but I think that's also very enhanced.
Okay. René, your students went to the Stubenbastei to teach there, as far as I know. What did they teach? Informatics?
So at the eduLAB, we teach AI workshops.
Yeah.
We visited the Stubenbastei with all our workshops, and 2 of them were the AI workshops, or the Stubenbastei school class come to us. But the clue here is that we didn't open the chatbot and simply prompt it away. We did that unplugged. So what we do is C is unplugged. We taught AI and we taught the functionality and structure of neural networks in an embodied learning experience where the students turned into neurons, so to say, and kind of lifted arms, carabiners, slided over ropes. And I invite everybody to look at our website for some inspirational pictures and ask us in the coffee break later. And we also taught about decision trees. So not these statistical methods, but rather rule-based AI methods that have been there for way longer and not as prominent in the media as generative AI approaches and these easy-to-use approaches right now for end users. And we have kind of tried to demystify what AI actually is by looking at the fundamental mechanisms of how to decide, how to train, how a model can be learned from the data, how can it be designed so that it is an AI system in the end, and we do this without any use of computers.
Okay. Yeah, we had a pre-conference on education on Tuesday, and Martina Landmann, who gave the key note, was very much in favor of teaching all these things unplugged. Yeah.
Yeah, she was a former teammate.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. She was trained at the eduLAB. Yeah. Okay. When we talk about how to bring AI competencies into schools, we need to talk about how to train the trainers. Yeah. How to teach the teachers. Yeah. And there is a big need, as far as I could see on the conference on Tuesday, which was mainly attended by teachers. Enrico, do you have a plan in Italy on how to teach the teachers?
Not
and
yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because they should start teaching this element of informatics in school starting next year in primary, and then rolling it up as time passes. But we do not yet have any plan, and I hope they are discussing it within some room in the ministry.
Yeah.
I am afraid they do not really understand how hard is this problem, because in Italy there is about 1 million teachers against 8 million students, more or less, and by and large these 1 million teachers have not seen informatics as scientific disciplines, neither where they were in school, nor in the university, nor in their professional development. Just think if something similar would be true for mathematics. Then all of a sudden you have to start teaching a subject that is as hard as mathematics, because informatics share the same conceptual foundation. It's not easy. It can't be done just telling them, go on the web and self-educate yourselves. Also because this is people that is already working. They have already a job. So the hours they have for the job are already assigned. So this is a very big issue that will require a lot of money, which is always a critical element. So the plan on what to teach to teachers, it's we in our laboratory for informatics school, we have the plans, but we need money to be able to prepare. Even if you want to only prepare the restricted number of teachers, we are speaking about hundreds of thousands of teachers. It's not something you can do. Very quickly.
Okay.
So it's.
But that's a problem, of course.
That's the problem.
Students are using it, and we don't have the teachers to teach it.
I can say from our perspective in our school, our teachers are really great and they are very enthusiastic. And I think it was more of a learning process together, because it was also their first time teaching the subject, and we are now the test students, but I think in a couple of years it's really going to be on point. And I can say if more teachers engage as our teachers do, then I think we can really work together and build a real subject out of it. Like informatics is mandatory in Austria, and it wasn't always mandatory, it wasn't always a subject. So I think slowly but surely we can also do that with AI.
Okay. Very good. Viktoria, Paar, you studied chemistry and biology, and now you're teaching AI in chemistry and biology and medicine, yeah? So where did you get your competences in AI training? Was it all self-study, or did you have any help from the ministry or from a formal system at least, yeah?
Well, it was mainly self-study, but as a teacher, you automatically sign up for lifelong learning. So it's part of the job. And of course, it's important to be interested in this topic. And if you're interested and you're curious, and then you get the information. It also helped not being alone. So it helped having a team and doing it together. And I think we established a nice course, and it will develop. So of course, it's for everyone. It's a learning process, and we're getting better by doing it. But it takes time. But I'm really happy that we started, because it's very common to overthink, and then nothing happens, and then we miss the point of where we can set actions. So yeah, I'm very lucky to be part of this.
Okay. And do you know of any other school in Vienna who is already copying or will copy your role model, your subjects?
Yes. Yeah. There is one secondary school in the 13th district, I guess, and the teachers were visiting us for one of our lectures. But they built their own curriculum, so they bring in their own knowledge and interests. So yeah, and I know that there are at the pre-conference we met some other teachers, also middle school teachers, that are very engaging.
Okay. For those not being familiar with the Austrian educational system, in Austria, you can come up with an elective course every school, and you don't need to ask for the okay of the ministry. That's why they could start, or that's why they started, If you would have waited for an okay from the ministry, I guess you would be still waiting, I share your hope about the talks in the ministries. It's hope that the same hopes are in Austria. René, you just nodded, and said, okay, I know about, obviously you were addressed by other schools as well who wanted to copy this subject and who wanted to, get your competences and your insights, What experiences have you made?
So I can totally agree with Enrico that there needs to be a systematic change. There needs to be funding in order to make that possible. And as the students pointed out, there's also maybe more change that we might directly address, because enable for the teacher to kind of dive into this self-study, to set up this subject, there needs to be free resources on that as well. So maybe other issues at school also need to be addressed somewhat in order to make room for this, because this approach does not kind of come up overnight and first week of September everybody starts doing that, right? So there is a challenge that is maybe a bit bigger, but by kind of setting up these role models and kind of making more of these instances, this curriculum can develop further, can be strengthened. And I think one big advantage here is also we have now teachers in this semester with biology and chemistry background. If a school wants to implement the subject, but maybe does not have a chemistry teacher to pair up with a teacher from biology, maybe the focus can be a bit adapted, because AI and digital transformation does happen in all these different subjects, in all these different areas. So the curriculum can be a bit adaptive so that we talk about various aspects and maybe switch out for one of the topics within a semester, or make it less heavy and also focus on additional topics that might not have been covered yet. So I think this is also a chance to kind of dive into this more adaptive approach if schools embrace it without the ministry's okay as an autonomous subject first in Austria. So that could be an approach. And I think that's what also the other school will do, right? They will not have the exact same curriculum. They will have an adapted version with their strength in their teacher cohort that will come forward, and they will learn and will share that as well. And maybe in the future, we will sit here with more teachers that can share differences and nuances in this curriculum.
Enrico, you fought for informatics becoming a mandatory subject for the last 14 years, Yeah? Why is it so important to have informatics and not AI as a mandatory subject?
First of all, because AI is based on informatics. So
Yes.
in my European view of informatics is a term encompassing all the various subfields from databases to cybersecurity to artificial intelligence to languages. So in Europe, we consider informatics to cover all this. So artificial intelligence is a subfield, a field of it. And is based on informatics in the sense that if you do not understand what informatics is at its core, the fact that you have some machine that in a purely automatic way takes some input and produces some output, just like industrial machine, but on a more abstract level, on a symbolic level, if you do not understand this, then you cannot really grasp what AI is doing. And AI is, I would say, dangerous enough in itself, in its mimicry of human language, that you cannot tolerate these conceptual mistakes. Therefore, I think that learning informatics as a scientific subject, not as, being able to become a very good programmer. Of course, you have to grasp the concept of a program, but you want to learn the science behind it. So learning informatics in school is really important. Then, in my personal view, in the final years of upper secondary school, you can go a bit deeper in how machine learning works, which requires a lot of mathematics that not many students are able to acquire at that time. But so I think that as a subject, as a scientific subject, informatics is much more important than AI. Of course, the side of awareness, digital citizenship is highly important because, this has really changed in the last decades. We have transformed our society from an industrial society to a digital society. So we have to teach the students that these digital tools that are now very powerful in their artificial intelligence implementation can be much more harmful than the traditional physical tools. So the education on this part is important, but I think it's not prominent because if we stay a bit on the back and we question ourselves, which is the purpose of general education in school? Why do we send children to school? At least as it has been evolving in Western world over the last decades, because this is the only situation I know very well. Basically, we send them to school so as they are citizens in the society. And to be a citizen in the society, you don't need to know how to use specific or specialized tools. You need to be able to reason, to argument, to think in a critical way, to understand motivation, to solve problems, to be able to solve problems working at an abstract level. So the purpose of general education is to prepare citizens much more than to teach them specific abilities that in 10 years, in 20 years will be different. So that's why I think that while the basic concept of all sciences and all disciplines that we teach in school have not changed, many of their applications have changed and will change. But I don't think this is really important for school because that's not the purpose of and I found recently a very nice citation by Albert Einstein, which was not a pedagogist, but I mean, it had a good brain, that in 1931, for the third century of higher education in the US, said that the purpose of general education is to develop a harmonious personality, not to become a specialist, is to develop a general ability for independent thinking and judgment, not acquisition of special knowledge. And people educated in this way will surely find their way and will be able to adapt themselves to progress and changes better than those who have acquired detailed knowledge. And I mean, these are 1 century old words, and the world has changed a lot, even if human beings have not changed a lot. I mean, I think we are still, the last time I checked, I still consider myself to be very similar to people living 1 century ago. So this is still true. So that's the purpose of general education. That's why it is important to insist that school education is based on fundamentals, in science and principles, understanding society, studying history, studying literature, because the human relationships have always been the same. I mean, even nowadays in these times of big brothers and big techs that want to rule, they want to rule, which is the same things that ancient civilities were doing. They wanted to rule the other. So the basic driving force behind humans are all the same. That's why it is important to study both science and humanities at basic level in a school. And of course, I mean, not to forget, not to be blind to the fact that we have these tools that, I repeat, they are very powerful. They might be very dangerous to educate, to grow students that are aware of this is important, but without forgetting the most fundamental goods of education.
What you just said, in a nutshell, is a very humanistic ideal of education in the end, yeah?
Absolutely.
Which still applies, yeah? We agree, I think, on the panel. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the best-selling, not best-selling, but best downloaded book on the Introduction to Digital Humanism that overcome 1 million downloads. I had exactly a chapter on no digital citizenship without digital humanism, advocating for an education that was based on digital humanism principle. So I completely agree with this.
And I think also on the panel we share the insight that one big danger is when these machines do a lot of things faster and even better sometimes than we do, that we lose the capacity of critical thinking, of making decisions, of putting things into context, etc. And all this needs a basis of history, literature, natural sciences, social sciences, etc. Plus a humanistic view of, or a humanistic ideal of education, plus informatics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
From the primary school on. Yeah. Like
from the first year of primary school.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly. I mean, because
I think we don't have that in Austria. Yeah. Even in the new curricula, I don't think there is informatics from primary school. Yeah.
No,
Viktoria
there is not
already.
at the moment, but I would go for the same.
Okay.
It is like writing and doing like calculating something. Why is that not there yet? So that's the question. I think Enrico just said it just now. In order to be a generalist in this world that is being developed just now by people who are specialists in their fields with a general education first.
Yes.
We need to advance this general education towards computer science, informatics in schools, in primary school. And that might look different. Of course, it will look different than the studies in university. But there are principles and fundamental steps that primary school students should take in order to understand and be able to design the world of tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, right? We want them to be capable of doing that, and therefore it should start on the very early. We just had workshops in kindergarten, so even earlier, and we tried that. There's also a curiosity, and while this is curriculum-wise not as fixed, why not start in primary school? That's a big question the ministry should take on, because society-wise, we need this.
Yeah. Fine. I just want to underline what you said. Michelle and I did these informatics workshops, and we can say the children were very happy, and we did it playfully so they can actually enjoy it. And I think they learned a lot, right?
Yeah, they were really creative also, and they really appreciated the opportunity that they got, because they were familiar with all the technology from their everyday lives, but they didn't really understand how they worked. And like, of course, a workshop that's only 3 days long is not going to teach you everything. It's going to teach you some basics and just going to help you just to wrap your head around the idea of it and what it kinda is. Not really understanding the really technological side, of course, but just to give you the basics.
Yeah.
Hey, how come you are teaching informatics in elementary school?
We just got the idea. I don't know. It just came to us. We weren't very inspired by anything, but we just thought we both like it.
Yeah.
We both like informatics and also the subject. That's why we chose it. And I think that just inspired us to share it with the world, because we know that a lot of children in the primary schools don't get in touch often with technology. That is important.
But in which context are you doing it? You get in, but you go to schools?
Yeah.
Okay.
We reached out to them, asked if anybody wanted our service. We didn't request anything. We didn't charge anything. We just thought, maybe it's going to be fun for the children and a good experience also for us.
And it's just the two of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I find this amazing.
Right. Yeah, that's really amazing. Yeah. Before we open the panel for your insights or questions, one question: do you think that, or how you experience it in your school day? To you, René and Enrico, you get a different question. How is AI a threat in school? Is it an opportunity? How is it in the, even with the other teachers, how do they think about it? I mean, there's only, I think, 6 or 8 teachers out of 60 who are working on AI and digital humanism. Do they look at you and think, okay, what are they doing? Do they find it interesting? Are they shied away? Yeah.
Yeah, all of it.
All of it.
All of
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's a huge amount of colleagues who is also very interested, but just doesn't have so much time to dive as deep. But I think more and more are getting to this subject because they see that it works well, and students give positive feedback. And I think it's coming, it's slowly building up. To the point of the challenges, I think in school, mainly the challenge is what we see is that AI can be used to make one's life a little less stressful. And if you make it too easy for yourself, then you might miss out on something. So, for example, when I was a student, 100 years ago, when I didn't learn enough, I made a cheat sheet and I had to read everything, prioritize what is important, what's not, which is a learning process itself. Then I wrote a very, very small cheat sheet and I didn't use it most of the time because then you already knew it. But nowadays, if you use AI, then you might know nothing. Just ask a question. You don't have to think about anything up front. So then you totally miss out on something. Yeah, so that's a big challenge for students because they think they make it easier for them. But if they don't know the basics, and secondary school is for most of the studies just basics, and you don't have it, then you come to university and you don't understand nothing. So it's making their life harder. And if they also don't have the capability of reading fast and reading a lot, then it's a big challenge for them in the future.
we haven't addressed reading yet, yeah, and the capacity or a competence of reading. Maybe we come to that for the last question. Michelle and Anja, how many students are attending the course in your school?
Not a lot. I think we're 10-ish.
Yes, we were 11 and one already graduated, so it's not 10.
Okay. And when other students ask you, what do you learn in this subject and how is it, yeah? Do they come up to you and ask about this subject, or do you talk about it and why it's only 10? I don't know how many elective courses in the schools are offered, so maybe that's an average anyway, yeah? Can you talk a little bit about your experience and also how the other students are reacting to this subject, yeah, in your class?
Yeah, so for example, in my class, so the year before this year, when this curriculum got introduced, some people went around in the classes and they're kind of advertising for it. And that did spark some interest, but people just didn't end up choosing it because I think the term is kind of, they don't really know what it's about, and also there wasn't really an explanation. So with other subjects, for example, that you could choose from, for example, fashion design, when you hear the name fashion design, you know what the subject's gonna be about, right? But for digital humanism, it's not really like that. And people just didn't really know what that term meant. And therefore, they kind of distanced themselves. Yeah.
And I also think those are modules that you choose, and we chose AI. And I think a lot of people choose modules just to have an easy subject, so they don't have to do anything, which I think is wrong, because you have to choose something that interests you and that can help you in the future. And I can say every subject, I think, is an equal amount of work. So I think you should choose something that interests you and can benefit you in the future. And I think that's what scared a lot of them. But we were talking today with a friend of ours, and we were like, yeah, we're going to this conference. And she was like, oh, that's such a cool subject. I'm sad I didn't choose it. So I think maybe more advertising and like clearing up about the subject is necessary.
Okay. And the course continues next year, and you can also do your final exams in, okay.
Yeah.
And will you?
Yeah.
You know by now? Yeah? Okay. I mean, I'm from a library, and I would be really eager to address the question of reading competence, but I won't, just because of time, yeah? Because I always think, okay, if we don't have the capacity or competence to read properly, and 25% of Austrian people lack this competence, how should we be competent in critical thinking and stuff like that, yeah? Before being able to read, yeah? But that just opens another field of problems, yeah? And I don't want to open a field of problems, but probably find solutions for occurring ones, yeah? Enrico, when you could wish for something in the Italian education system, yeah, what would it be? Yeah, I mean, you are very close to, or very in close cooperation with the Ministry of Education, I guess, and you know what the discussion there is about. What would you wish for, and do you see any hope that we succeed in getting people educated in a proper way, like as in a humanistic way, plus informatics and the skills they need in 10, 20 years' time?
Thanks for this question, because it's a very big question. And this, I mean, my answer will apply not only to Italy, but I think to every country. Mm-hmm. I would like, I would like that before going too deeply in inserting AI in school, we gather more evidence from the field about the consequences. Because I would not like to find ourselves in 25 years in a situation like we are now with digital technology in schools, that you may remind that beginning, turning of the century, there were smartphones and mobile connectivity and tablets. So this is a new wonderful technology. Let's bring it in the school. You remember 25 years ago, this was the keyword. And now after 25 years, almost all the world is coming back. Sweden, have you read that, is back to books, and the danger, the bad things happened that from too much digital technology are under the eyes of everybody. Competence in reading is decreasing, competence in mathematics, competence in languages is decreasing. So I would not like to find myself in 25 years from now contemplating the same situation with AI. And to contrast this, we need to do research on the field, considering that we are doing research on human beings with a cycle of one school year, so we cannot accelerate. It's not like cells that you can somehow accelerate, or with bodies that you can throw 1,000 bodies and repeat the experiments 1,000 times. So we have to take our times. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it has been reminded many times during this conference that the big corporations are pushing us to rush towards using this, which is their business. I can understand that's their business, but our business as democratic society is to resist and to ask for evidence why I should do in this way. And some evidence about the need of being cautious are emerging. I will cite just a couple of them. One is a true scientific study published on the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, one of the best journals in the world. It concerns 1,000 students studying mathematics at upper secondary school in the UK. Half of them used AI, half of them didn't use AI. And guess what? The one using AI were quicker, faster, but then understood less. The one that were not using AI were slower, but they had a better grasp of the subject. And the interesting part is that if instead of giving unrestricted AI to students, you give them AI that have guardrails, that have tutors, so that they do not give away the answer, but they just provide hints and act like true teachers, then the result improves. So this is pointing in the direction that there might be some good use, but it is critical because it can only be done in school, because of course at home you cannot control students, and requires additional effort to put these guardrails in place. And then the other one is not a scientific study, but it's important because it has been made by Anthropic. So the one that are selling this, they studied using the computer science education approach. They studied the junior software engineering learning how to use a new library. And again, half of them had AI tools, half of them didn't. And again, the one working only with their own brain did better. Interestingly, examining the one that used AI tools, the better performing in the worst set, the better performing were the ones that using AI as an helper, asking them why things are working in this way, why things are organized in this way. So they didn't just ask for the answer, they used it to understand the situation. Now, this is, perfectly reasonable, but we have to take into account that these are, grown up, these are software engineers and working, so these are adults. They can have some self-restraint that we cannot ask, to a teenager to have this self-restraint. So again, there can be some good use, and everybody of us, I'm sure, is using AI to understand better something, but we are adults, have studied, have learned, have, consumed our brains on books, and we have developed our concepts, and therefore we can have a good use of this technology. Okay.
Okay, René, you are, last question, on the podium. You are accompanying the pilot with research, yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah? What kind of questions are you asking yourself? Like, as Enrico already mentioned a couple of them, is it in the same direction? And what is your interest as a researcher in cooperating with the Stubenbastei? And not only because we want educated and critical thinkers to strengthen democracy, yeah? That's a point we share.
So for one part, we are investigating how digital humanism itself influences teachers' work and can be integrated in curricula. And with this subject, we do this actively, right? So here now, digital humanism is on the subject lane and in the curriculum actively, but we can also do that implicitly. We can also see how does digital humanism infuse different curricula. So we do investigations on that, especially for computer science didactics as well, because with this subject, we do not want to introduce a subject without this reflective and this kind of shielding approach that digital humanism allows us to take, right? So we can investigate this. And the other part, and Enrico just said that as well, we also want to investigate how these now AI-based, AI-mediated technologies and learning environments that are being created are being used. So we do not know how and when to use every tool yet. And there are countless of tools that are somewhat AI-based, somewhat more and less, are being introduced to learners, to the audience, to the public. And we need to investigate how these tools are used, for which purposes, how they are possibly misused, so that we kind of redefine learning as a certain level, but also kind of find patterns, find designs that are suitable for these tools in order to have the knowledge before we roll this out. Because I don't have the knowledge to look back 25 years on the educational system. You said I was a student back then, but I don't want to look in 25 years back and say, we rushed it. We just simply integrated it because we needed to. We need to do that, and therefore research is needed. So the government has to kind of invest in this. And this does not only hold for Austria. This goes beyond the European level. This is a worldwide important issue. And luckily, here we have the new Center for Digital Humanism that is being set up. And that can also kind of set a stage that education can be set up with this fundamentally. And their research, I would love to do that. I'm happy to investigate that further if the ministry, the funding allows that on scale.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Now we welcome, there are a lot of questions, so hands up, please, wherever, So, start in the front row. Could a second person probably take the mic? Because you are, please.
Okay, so my question would be, since there are many teenagers, as I know from my own friends who are still in school and stuff like that, who are just loving to use ChatGPT for their homework because it's easier and because they're simply not motivated to think critically. They're not like you two up there and thinking about it critically. I'm now asking myself, how can we motivate them? Because many of them are actually smart. It's not because they're stupid, but simply because they don't want to. So I'm asking myself, how can we motivate them, and how can we show them effectively that AI is not the best solution?
I think that's a perfect question for the two of you.
So of course you can't force anyone to just learn something that they're not interested in, even if it's for their own good. Because if someone just lives for the small wins, for the wins for tomorrow, and don't think about the long term and the long run, it's just on them and this.
That's a great question, actually. I hate to say it like this, but I think they need to experience on their own and realize, like, they need to have an experience to see, I can't just focus on the small ones and I can't use AI for everything. They need to, I don't know if you can say it like that, but burn themselves on a mistake and then learn from their mistakes, or learn from someone else's mistakes.
Yeah, that's a very good and effective way to learn. Viktoria.
And I also want to add that that's the main thing. We teachers need to give practical advice on how to use AI so that learning can happen.
Please, yeah.
First of all, I really want to state my deepest appreciation for what you're doing and how impressed I am of this, what I would call a prototype that you built. And I think that Stubenbastei here is really outstanding. From this, I want to come back to how can we scale this, even though I understand the critical remarks, how far should we scale it? But let's say we need to scale it somehow. And with scaling, on the one hand, a few million teachers in Europe should be capable to support. But one thing we didn't discuss yet is how can we make this inclusive? We have a lot of families who are not well educated, kids who don't have Wi-Fi at home. If you are at Stubenbastei, we know your parents are above average in income or in education, and that's great. But how can we take care for not building even more digital divide in our society? And are there any ideas, because AI will produce more digital divide, that's proven already. So are there any ideas already, maybe from your side or from...
Yep. Thank you for the question. René, you want to take it here?
So I think that's a similar question to all the digital tools again. If we rely on these companies that drive AI on the market and give that to the public, in a sense, we kind of find ourselves maybe in a trap at some point, and this digital divide and this missing equity will just increase, and the divide will increase. I think here the different nations have to set up own solutions, own approaches for education systems, because access to these tools should not be the issue if they are embraced in a certain way. And if more learning technologies for schools is AI-based, it cannot be if you pay for it or if your parents know about it, you get access to that. It should be access to all of the students, but then we have to decide how we set that up. But that's also one of the general questions, for example, for Europe. How dependent are we on these not so European countries that are driving right now this development very quickly, right? And the students are using, right? You mentioned the tools, dropped some names, and we want probably to hear that educational systems rely on other sources that are fairly distributed to everybody.
I just wanted to add that I share your I shared a thread, and on Tuesday we learned, I don't know who told us, but it makes smart students smarter and the others less smart, yeah? It strengthens the divide, yeah? And we have maybe one answer could be as school shouldn't be, it doesn't make any sense anymore to give homeworks, yeah? So the Gesamtschule, yeah, the all-inclusive school is probably one answer to the question, yeah? Could be at least, yeah? Yeah, Enrico, yeah, please, yeah.
I just want to add that we need to, to go back to books and to go back to school in presence, which means investing in the school sector, which is something that in the last decades has been almost forgotten in Western country, and we as a society have forgotten that the sector of instruction, I mean school instruction, even more than higher education, but school instruction is the most important resource for the future of a country. So we should invest in it, and then instead we are treating it as a company that has to produce a product. I mean, come on, a school is not a company. A school is preparing citizens. You cannot say, I mean, this citizen is better than this citizen. These are both human beings. So the digital humanism again. So we have to come back to this situation where education, school education is the most valuable asset we have. Invest in it, invest in traditional ways, because, I mean, technology will evolve at faster and faster and faster pace. But the basic education will not change, so the basic quality of human beings will be always the same. That's why we should, that's the way we should go. The problem is that this is political decision that, requires the collective action of all citizens when they vote. Otherwise, the government will be captured by the companies, and they will tell schools buy this or get this product from the corporation. Unless we, as citizens, understand that this is a very fundamental asset, the education for the country.
Please, yeah.
One thing I think has been missing from the discussion so far is the question about privacy. I think Michelle was the one who said she was using a notebook LM, so we know it's a Google product, big tech. And from what we've heard the last 2 days, we heard Bruce Schneier in the morning talk about the privacy issues and the trust issues. Yesterday, we had a panel talk about the social media ban. And there was some interesting statistics from a psychologist who actually had data about depression in youth. So what I'm concerned with is now not a lot of students these days even know about how to properly use AI. Now they use those tools and they use them for school, but they also use them in their personal lives. So they will talk about depression, they will talk about personal issues. And I think that would be one aspect that is very important to also teach them about how trustworthy those tools are. And I think that would also be one issue, because in my day job, I'm an AI officer. I work in technical data protection, so it's my job to make sure our employees don't use tools where they can put too much company data into the big tech tools. And now we have lots of people under the age of 18 or under the age of 25 using those tools and telling them about, I don't know what, very personal stuff. And I would not want to, because if you're not the product, if you don't pay for it, you are the product and you're paying with your data.
Okay, thank you for this remark. I guess it wasn't a question. And I think that's one of the main aspects of the subject. It's called AI and digital humanism. And one of the main focuses is exactly on this, I guess, yeah. Critical use of AI, of course, and privacy issues and data issues. And you are learning also all the, EU AI Act and DSM and things like that. But thank you, yeah. Okay, George, and then the fifth and the third row, yeah.
Thank you. First of all, I think this is a prototype whose development deserves congratulations, and it also deserves now to be exported. Exported not just as a finished product, but as a proposal, as a promising practice, inviting others to take it up and provide their own feedback. And I believe that now is the time to build on this digital humanism initiative. My question is the following. I heard with interest how well Michelle spoke about using AI to enhance her skills. Mm-hmm. But she enhanced skills that she had already acquired, because not only Enrico, who pleaded his age as a hybrid product of both more traditional methods and digitally empowered methods, but also the two younger members of the panel. I mean, at some point or other, you learn how to think and how to like to think, and you develop skills that now AI helps you to enhance. You spoke about your cheat sheet, which is an excellent way to build intellectual skills, but you had done that already. And my question is, how do we ensure in the hybrid system to come to balance the two? In Sweden, as Enrico mentioned, they were the first country to make a paperless class. They're just tablets for everybody and so on. They removed them all now, and they go back to cursory writing with pencil and paper. Maybe that's another extreme. I don't know. maybe it's a way to try and correct. How do we systematically try to find the right balance?
So maybe I can share insights. I think that's one of the main advantages that is behind the CS Unplugged approach. In these workshops where we have schools come to Wien, they embrace no technology use. They do activities on computer science topics just fully unplugged. They play, they do crafts, so to say. They build knowledge and skills and certain competencies in the end about what algorithms are, how information encoding is important in order for machines to process information later on. And I think this is just truly the remarkable part. They do this without any device, and they go home and can tell their parents that they executed algorithms, that they understood, they planned their own. I think that's a huge advantage in the field of computer science. And I would say that this goes for so many other subjects as well, that certain skills can be used completely unplugged and explored. And then there's this reflection, there's this experimentation in there where they simply learn by doing, making mistakes and learning from them. And for example, in STEM, you do experiments, you observe, and these techniques are still there. And if they have them, then they learn it. And then they use AI, as the students here presented, to enhance certain skills even further.
We take 2 more questions, yeah, the 5th and the 3rd row, yeah.
Thank you. You can hear me. My question is, I picked up on a few things that you were talking about, and to rephrase, you said like we have to teach schools are for to teach students how to think, how to teach them basic skills. But what I see, not everywhere of course, but all around the world, I see that schools are still optimizing for grades, and many students, they don't learn how to they don't like thinking because it's hard. I mean, we all know that it is hard, and there are so many factors probably there: stress, family situation, economic situation, etc. I mean, there's so many things that can influence if the student would like to think or no. But I think AI, the appearance of generative AI, showed us that now it's more visible to get away without thinking. And all those students who actually learn to like thinking, they follow your path, that they use AI in a way to get even better. But the question is that how do we teach students to like thinking?
I mean, we have to compete with a huge amount of online games and social media that give you every 10 seconds a dopamine burst. And well, if you have to read through a book and then summarize and then maybe be proud of your presentation, it takes a lot of work for this very small burst. But I think it's our job to provide the setting in teaching to get the students to experience being proud of having put in some work, some kind of real work, maybe accomplished by AI. I mean, these two are very ambitious, but a lot of students try to just get through it quick and easy. So yeah, I think it's part of teaching. We have to motivate, and we have to keep in mind that the next dopamine burst might be outside. So yeah, we have to keep on working. We need to try.
Okay, one last question because we are running out of time.
Yes, first up, thank you very much for the wonderful discussion, and kudos to these 2 young girls. As a father of 2 girls, one in school, I find it very inspiring. I'm going to tell them both, and please keep it up, whatever you're doing. Well done. My question is for the teaching faculty, actually. So what control measures are actually taken introducing AI in a very young age to the students? Because like we said, for the homework is given on a daily basis almost, right, to the students. And there's always an urge for the students to, take a picture, post it in Gemini, get the solution, right? So, I mean, it's great that the students themselves said that they should be very responsible, but it's a very young shoulders and it's a very big responsibility. And we should have more control measures. You already mentioned that the teachers should advise on a regular basis. Are parents brought into this guardrails, and is it a closed cooperation with them as well? So what other control measures are taken from the teaching faculty?
René or... So,
yeah, maybe we would love to have the parents on board, but it's not for everyone possible. We know that. It's a challenge for our society, I think. But for the teaching and seeing knowledge in students, we have a lot of tools that, besides homework, to see if students got to the point. And I think the old school homework might be not the right tool anymore.
Maybe to add on that, things like project-based learning, presentations in class, discussions, debate, the students mentioned that as well. These are techniques that require more than simply prompting the next thing, but also working with that and maybe selling it in some sense as a student. And I think that's where teachers come in and say, is that really your achievement? Do you think about that? And that is one step to reflect. And maybe that's one thing to be burned at once, to kind of use the AI parts to debate and then fail and say, okay, I should have taken more deeper look into that because it did not do my best and I don't want that to. And so I think the educational system, it changes. The classroom time changes, the setup there changes, and towards the assessment questions that are not answered yet, there is a change coming. Teachers are embracing a lot of different techniques, and we should give them systematic room to enable them to explore other techniques and give students the chance to show that they actively think and actively engage in the materials as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your questions. Before applauding the audience, I want to tell you that 20 German copies and 10 English copies of this book we introduced in the beginning here to take. You can take it for free, of course. And please join me in a big applause for the audience and especially for Anja and Michelle. I think. Yeah.